Hello everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We have reached yet another Friday, so of course you know what that means. I have yet another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody. Now, at this time of year, I almost always have a huge display of Hallmark-style holiday romances available for people to check out and enjoy, and those movies always go out like crazy, so I know I have a ton of holiday romance fans out there in the community. Unfortunately, due to COVID this year, our doors are closed to the public currently, and thus no big DVD display. But did you know that both Clevenuts Overdrive and Hoopla Digital feature a ton, and I mean a ton, of holiday romances? And those holiday romances, of course, just like with all of my other recommendations, are all available for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card. So if you are missing the display, if you are longing for a holiday romance, keep tuning in. I'm going to do a good-sized rundown of holiday romances available on both, again, Clevenuts Overdrive and on Hoopla Digital. We're not going to focus on Canopy this week because Canopy doesn't have the Hallmark-style romances. But both this week and next week are going to be all about holiday romance. So, again, keep tuning in if you're longing for that, and I hope that you find something that you'll be able to enjoy. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get to those recommendations. All right, as always, the first set of recommendations are going to come from Clevenuts Overdrive, and the very first of those movies is one called Christmas Perfection. Now, in Christmas Perfection, our main character, Darcy, is a woman who knows exactly what she wants. She loves having the perfect Christmas every year. She wants decorations just so. She has menus planned months and months ahead of time. She has a picture of what perfection is in her mind, and that's the only thing she wants. Now, she has this long-time male best friend who's been by her side for years and years and years, who definitely likes her. I mean, it's pretty obvious. But he's not what she has pictured in her mind as a life partner, so, you know, he sort of stays in the friend zone, even though she thinks he's cute and he's funny and whatever. Anyway, one night, she goes to sleep and then somehow magically wakes up in this perfect Christmas land where every single day is like Christmas, every single day is absolutely perfect, every single day is her image of what a day should be. But as time goes by, she slowly starts to recognize that this utter perfection isn't really what she wants or needs in her life. She even meets like the perfect image boyfriend, and she discovers that that's not what she wants either. So she sort of has to figure that out through the course of this movie. Now, like any of the movies we're going to talk about today, it's pretty predictable how things turn out. I mean, it is a Hallmark-style holiday romance. We're not going for overwhelmingly deep. We're going for a happily ever after. That's what we want. And you absolutely get that within this picture. Our heroine goes on a really fun journey of growth. The characters are all really fun and likable, and, you know, the storyline is a little bit quirky and interesting. It's definitely not your everyday holiday romance. So if you are looking for something a little bit fantasy oriented, that has like a little bit of a Groundhog Day vibe, definitely check out Christmas Perfection on Overdrive. You'll enjoy it. Okay, so my second recommendation from Clevenuts Overdrive is for a movie called Married by Christmas, and this one is very much a work-driven storyline. Our main character, Carrie, is a career woman. She runs the family business. She absolutely loves it. It's 100% what gets her up in the morning. She is totally driven by this and the success that it brings. And then one holiday season, she and the rest of her immediate family are having a dinner party when her sister announces that she's going to get married. Everyone is quite happy for the sister, including Carrie, But then the mother announces that there's this weird clause in the original business owner's will, and the first daughter in a generation is the one that ends up inheriting the business, and the business then goes to the control of her spouse. There's a lot to unpack about that, but what's good is that the characters in the movie also find it very very much of a side-eye situation. I mean, they're not denying that the whole scenario is kind of crazy. Anyway, Carrie, who is much more invested in the family business than her sister, is absolutely not having it. And she ends up deciding that just because her sister got engaged first doesn't mean that that she's going to be the first one to get married. So Carrie decides that she's going to figure out a way to get married by Christmas so that she can in fact inherit the business. The situation will be entirely of convenience, so whatever husband she ends up with is not really going to control the business. She's going to have all of the power, so everything will continue as it has. It is quite funny in a lot of places. Again, not unpredictable, but hilarious in a lot of spots. You get to see a lot of her candidates who, unsurprisingly, are terrible. And when I say terrible, I mean bottom of the barrel terrible. But that just sort of adds to the humor. It's very slapsticky in that regard. And the love interest she ends up falling for, it's definitely one of those relationships where the characters are very much at odds throughout a large portion of the storyline. So that sort of bickering style of chemistry is very much there. So if you like that sort of romance where you go from enemies to lovers, and you enjoy a lot of slapstick and humor, and you like workplace romance, definitely check out Married by Christmas. It's a lot of fun, and it's definitely one that is a little bit more contemporary in some regards, just because it does focus on workplace happenings. So yes, Married by Christmas on Clevenet's Overdrive. My next recommendation is for another sort of fantasy-driven romance, and that is a movie called Snowman's. Now, Snowman's features a young woman named Mary who is a complete and total romantic and has been from childhood on. And what's really cute about this one is that we actually see her get to grow up in the beginning of the film. We see her go from being a little girl who builds snowmen and pretends that they're real and pretends that these snowmen are her absolute ideal guy. And we also see her relationship with, again, her male best friend develop throughout the years. And he eventually helps out building these snowmen with her. And he knows how outlandishly imaginative and romantic she is, and he loves that about her. Anyway, this building of a snow bow, it becomes a tradition, and, you know, we get to present day, and she's still building these snow bows, and she's still building them with her best friend. Now, again, just because she goes to sleep one night and suddenly, magically, her latest snow bow becomes real, and is, of course, imbued with all of the qualities that she talks about wanting. He is the perfect boyfriend. And again, it's one of those situations where we see the juxtaposition of this male best friend who really knows her. We've seen him grow up with her. We've seen him humor her when she's ridiculous. And we've seen her interact with him throughout the years. And then this sort of perfect specimen going on that just suddenly appeared. And again, it's one of those not unpredictable romances, but one that ends up being, again, a lot of fun. It's definitely a little silly. Uh, there's definitely some, I won't say poor acting, but I will say of all of my recommendations, the acting is definitely a little bit of a lower grade, because some of these actually have really, really strong actors. I was honestly a little bit surprised by how solid the acting was in some of these. But this one is definitely on the lower end of that scale. But that said, it still leaves you with the warm fuzzies. You know, if you're just looking for something light, it's definitely something silly, something that will give you warm fuzzies. Snowman's is definitely a good option for you. I would say it's even good with regard to being pretty open for broad age range, because we've got that early life, the early life scenes going on, so it might appeal to an even younger audience than, you know, adults. So again, Snowman's also on CleveNet's Overdrive. My next recommendation is another Overdrive pick, and that is Holly's Holiday, which stars Claire Coffey, who, if anyone watched the sort of horror fantasy TV series Grimm, was one of the main characters there. She's actually a really, really solid actress. So again, this was one of the ones that really kind of surprised me. In Holly's Holiday, Holly Maddox is this New York City ad exec who is very, very much happy with her life. The premise of the story is that every day, though, during the holiday season, she notices this sort of hunky mannequin in front of her office building. I don't know that I've ever noticed a hunky mannequin before, but apparently it's a thing. So anyway, one day Holly has a bit of an accident and bumps her head. And when she wakes up, there's this absolutely perfect guy at her side taking care of her. I think you know where this is going. She hits it off with this guy, and they start to see each other, sort of. I say sort of because things escalate so quickly. This is another one of the films that I was like, whoa, that escalated fast. But that's still, again, because it's in this format that we're all familiar with. Boy meets girl, girl falls in love with boy, girl decides that this perfect boy is not what she wanted kind of scenario. That you have to have those fall in love fast moments so that you can get to the realization point. Anyway, she sees all of this perfection from this new guy that she's never met prior to her little accident, when all along there's this other guy in her life who had been there for years and years, a coworker who she'd always known was quite brilliant, who was really steady, who was just a great guy, but not someone she'd ever really thought of in that regard. So she has to weigh her choices. Again, it's pretty obvious what choice she's going to make. And that becomes apparent very quickly. As I mentioned, things escalate a little too fast to make much sense in that regard. But the acting is at least on the main character's part, and then on her not perfect love interest's part as well. You do get some really solid acting there. That was pleasantly surprising. So again, I would definitely recommend Holly's Holiday for anyone who's looking for a fun fantasy escapism kind of drama that has like the exciting New York setting, that features really pretty people because everybody in this cast is gorgeous, and that will definitely make you laugh because there are a ton of funny moments in this one. So again, Holly's Holiday, check that one out too. Okay, my next recommendation is for a film called Merry Kissmas. And this one was actually really kind of unusual for a Hallmark-style holiday romance, in that I honestly did not know for certain who I was supposed to be rooting for our heroine to get together with. Our main character is Kayla. She's lovely and she's funny and sweet, and she is already involved with a gentleman named Carlton, who is, for all intents, a really decent guy. They've been together for a long time, and they're kind of on the verge of a breakup, but they end up deciding to get married because that's always a great idea when you're on the verge of a breakup. Anyway, they do again end up deciding to get engaged, and suddenly there's this new guy who appears in Kayla's life. Dustin, the new guy, is also a sweet, nice, decent guy. And they have a ton of chemistry. But she also, as an actress, has a ton of chemistry with the original boyfriend. So between these two, she has to decide, she has to figure out who she's really supposed to be with. Now, because all of the actors have decent chemistry, and because, there were some weird quirks with her relationship with her initial boyfriend / fiance, it does become a little bit more of a challenging film in that, she could probably be fine with either guy. So if you are looking for a holiday romance that maybe challenges you to really look at and think about not super obvious choices, because let's be honest, most of these holiday romances are a very clear, this one is a winner and this one is not kind of situation, then check out Merry Kissmas. I would say it's definitely one of those films that I thought about a little bit more while I was watching than many of the others. So again, Merry Kissmas, also available on CleveNet Overdrive. All right, let's move on to our recommendations from Hoopla Digital, and the first of those is for a film called A Beauty and the Beast Christmas. Now, this has nothing to do with Beauty and the Beast, so apologies in advance, but it did end up being, of all of my recommendations, one of my favorites within this batch. The story features a really peppy holiday influencer named Ginger Holiday. Not the best name, but at least appropriate for the film. She is the guru of all gurus when it comes to holiday anything, right? But something happens and she ends up having a bit of an image problem. Now, it's rare that I would say this about a holiday film, but I actually found the situation with her and her image issues quite believable, if only because social media influence world has a ton of drama in it in general, in real life. So any kind of image problem is massive within that realm. So if you can't manage to fix that very quickly, you can absolutely lose everything. So I get that she was driven to some form of desperation. That makes sense to me, and I do think that element of the film is actually quite reasonable. She allows her agent to convince her to set up this fake romance with another viral personality who happens to be this bad boy named Beau Bradley. And they hope that this sort of fake romance will end up bringing her more followers who will sort of make up for the loss with her image issue. Now, the two main characters initially hate one another, absolutely hate one another, and that's not unexpected simply because both characters have such disparate personalities. But while that's like a pretty standard trope for a lot of romances, even outside of holiday romances, they do have a ton of chemistry. It feels very like Katharine Hepburn, Spencer Tracy-ish to me, and I know that that's going to kill a lot of Katharine Hepburn, Spencer Tracy fans, but it does, like, they do have that sort of like tension there from the get-go, and the two who are in this one are actually really, really solid performers. So if you're looking for a, you know, well-acted, funny, very contemporary holiday romance, you should absolutely check out A Beauty and the Beast Christmas. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I 100% think that people who are looking for that sort of a film will 100% enjoy it. So that's the first recommendation from Hoopla. Okay, my second recommendation for Hoopla Digital is for a sports holiday romance of a kind called Christmas on Ice. Now, Christmas on Ice features Courtney, a former U.S. Skating hopeful who runs a local community ice skating rink. It's announced one day that this public rink is going to be closed, and she's utterly devastated. Of course, it's her financial livelihood on the line, but it's also something that's like just tied to a piece of her in general. You know, this rink is her life. It represents all of this history that she's got. She ends up convincing the owner of the local indoor rink, which is kind of her competitor at the same time, to help her campaign to keep her public rink open. There is a ton of conflict between the two of them. He is a former professional hockey player, so, you know, he knows that sort of professional athlete life. He's a single father. He definitely, you know, butts heads with her all the time. But together they work to sort of make the best situation for the community that they possibly can. So if you're interested in sporting movies, if you like romances that feature people that challenge each other but that have a lot of good humor, stories about people who have vaguely similar backgrounds too, because they both were athletes in the past, and if you like stories that feature people trying to move past, you know, different sorts of heartbreak, whether it be former romances or other situations like that, check out Christmas on Ice. It's actually a really, really sweet one that I quite enjoyed. So again, Christmas on Ice, one of our Hoopla choices. Our next Hoopla recommendation is for a film called Grounded for Christmas, and while this one might sound like a teen romance, it is not. The grounding here is actually referring to the grounding of flights. This one features a pilot named Nina who ends up stranded in her hometown of Cleveland. And she ends up having to spend the holidays at her parents' house, which she just wasn't expecting. She has a great relationship with them. It's just she had planned to be out of town, flying other people to where they needed to be. Consequently, a co-working pilot who is a total jerk and absolutely arrogant ends up grounded in Cleveland as well. Circumstances happen, and they end up pretending to be a couple. It's one of those situations. And of course, as time goes by, the pretending gets less and less apparent. As time goes by, she discovers he's significantly less of a jerk than she initially thought. And all the while, you know, they are interacting with her family, so you get like these warm holiday fuzzy vibes the entire time. the two very opposite personalities grow to discover just how much they actually have in common. And again, because they're already interacting with her parents, you get like this long-term sort of sweet relationship vibe to add to it. So anyway, if you're looking for very much like a family holiday romance, and by that I mean just one where the heroine and hero interact with the heroine's family a lot, definitely check out Grounded for Christmas. It was a lot of fun and it was really quite charming. My next rec from Hoopla is for A Cinderella Christmas. This one is, as by you might guess by the title, very much a Cinderella story. You have Angie, who runs her uncle's event planning business. She is an absolute sweetheart. She will do anything for anyone in need. She has no ability to say no. Which results in a lot of like really funny situations. But she is a genuinely sweet, fun, terribly likable character. One night she decides to just be not herself at all. She ends up in this rather fantastic sort of Cinderella dress. She goes to this masquerade ball and she ends up meeting like the perfect Prince Charming. And this Prince Charming is genuinely like a nice, decent guy. But because it's a masquerade, he has no idea who Angie is. And she doesn't reveal any of that information. She just leaves at the end of the masquerade ball. So we're left with the Prince Charming character having to figure out who she is and searching for her. Like I said, it is absolutely a pretty straightforward traditional Cinderella story. You have Angie, who is 100% a Cinderella, sweet, loving, very put upon, but she doesn't resent it. She just goes with the flow. And you have a Prince Charming essentially rescuing her. It's not the most modern tale, but it is like sweet and quite lovely. So if you like modern takes on classic fairy tales that don't switch it up too much, definitely check out A Cinderella Christmas. It was, like I mentioned, sweet, charming, a very nice, light holiday romance for anyone who's interested. Now, my very last recommendation was another one of my absolute favorites. This one is called Christmas on the Range, and it too features some really, really fantastic acting. Like, they actually have quite a few familiar faces in the cast that I'm pretty sure people will recognize. Even if you don't know the actors' names, you'll be like, I know that face. Your main character, her name is Kendall, and she is desperately fighting for her family's ranch. You know, she has this neighbor who is constantly trying to threaten them, who's always trying to get the ranch shut down or trying to buy them out. And she's, you know, perpetually working against that, trying to keep things afloat. One day she meets this veterinarian who just appears on her ranch in the nick of time to help rescue like a pregnant cow and to save the calf that she's having so much difficulty birthing, only to discover that this very attractive, very sweet, very capable vet is the son of her terrible neighbor. So you've got like a weird but cute meet cute situation going on, but then you immediately have this like Romeo Juliet setup where you've got the warring factions of families going on. Now, this one is interesting because you have like a lot of complications going on. Not only do you have that sort of like Capulet Montague thing happening, but you also have like real ranch issues like sabotage things going on too. So there are a lot of different like genre elements in this. Like you've got a little bit of suspense. Someone is actually sabotaging her ranch. So you've got a bit of mystery thrown in there in addition to your standard holiday romance going on. You know, there's a question of if this vet that she definitely has feelings for is actually in league with his father and actually trying to hurt her ranch. But, you know, it is a holiday romance that I picked for this list, so you're going to know that it's going to have an HEA. But while you're reaching the happily ever after, you know, there really are moments of serious tension. There are like some moments that are really exciting and funny and a little bit like suspenseful, and definitely romantic. Again, some really, really fantastic actors are part of the cast. You've got Erin Cahill as your lead playing Kendall. She was in Red Widow. She was in Sleepy Hollow. She was in Saving Grace. You've got Nicholas Gonzalez playing the vet. He's currently in The Good Doctor. He's been in a ton of other series in small roles. A. Martinez is in it. He's in Longmire. He was in Longmire. He was also on a soap. He was in Days of Our Lives. And Lindsay Wagner, Bionic Woman. She's been on Grey's Anatomy. A ton of other series. So you do have like a really strong central cast going on. Stronger than I think any other of the films that we recommended today. So if you're looking for something with really solid acting, a quite entertaining script, and just in general a really, really great holiday romance, please check out Christmas on the Range. It was a really wonderfully fun Western styled romance, and you know, I really very, very much enjoyed it. So with that, I am done with our first batch of holiday romance recommendations. I will be back, of course, next week with another set of holiday romances for you all. In the meantime, if you have any recommendations yourself that I didn't mention this week that you think other people should be watching, please comment below. Recommend them. We always love hearing about other movies we should be watching. If you have any recommendations for topics that we should be covering in the future, please mention those as well. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for this week. But I hope you found something within this set of recommendations to enjoy this weekend. And I will see you all next Friday. Bye.